No, I'm tapping into my nightmare, or not nightmare. My storyline was
Uh,
the night before Christmas, and all through the house. Not
Okay.
a creature was stirring, not even a mouse.
I didn't get the assignment because I said all I wanted for Christmas was an Atari, so I wore my Atari shirt. But we're talking about Ghosts and Tiny Tim.
Yes, we're talking about Christmas stories, specifically A Christmas Carol. What better way to come on the podcast with my little sparkly earrings that look like Christmas trees? And in the storyline where Ma in her bonnet and I in my cap, settling in for a long winter's nap. But that's a different story. We're going to talk about Charles Dickens, and we're going to talk about his Christmas Carol.
Yep.
All right, let's get into the notes. And for those who know Jaime, I have created two sets of notes this time. We have my version and we have Jamie's version.
I inspired you to do that, though.
Yes. Yes, you did.
Because I said, this is the only way we're going to be able to coexist. Because if you give me something to read, I just go on and I get stuck. Like that one episode, I'm stuck on a pronunciation of a word and I say it 72 times like a tick before I can move on.
Yes.
But
Well, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I just feel like a Christmas Carol, for one, it was a short read. I almost read it again this morning. I haven't read it since I was a kid, but it's only like 80 pages. It's
Yeah.
simple, but there was a lot. Like, I feel like his childhood probably inspired this story
Oh, yeah.
because what happened to him, like with his father. His father was in prison for debt, and when he was 12 or something like that. So
Mhm.
he had to face poverty and social injustice and things like that, and that really comes through on the writing of the Christmas Carol.
Yes.
Okay, there I am. I'm stuck
Yep.
again.
Yeah.
All right, I'll turn
Yes.
it over to you. It's my mind's thinking I'm almost out of water, but luckily I got
Oh
another
my
one.
gosh. I was gonna say you
I
went and
got
got your
scared.
backup plan, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, as you mentioned, Charles Dickens, his life profoundly shaped A Christmas Carol. And you see a lot of it through the fact that he was kind of marked by these stark constraints in his life. His family started out like well-to-do middle class, and then eventually through, mismanagement of funds, which seems to be a common thread with humans. We tend to, I got money, I'm going to spend it, and then here comes the famine.
Yep.
But he was born in England, Portsmouth, England, 1812. And like you were talking, his childhood kind of inspired that whole, you got the rich and the poor, you've got this whole like this family of like struggles and this industrial revolution time era. What is the Christmas story visual aside from the book that you remember the most? Was it the Disney version? Was it the live action version? What version kind of sticks
No,
in?
it was the old black and white version. So
Mm,
I don't know when it came out. And
yeah.
honestly, I don't remember if I seen the other ones. I read the book and I seen the old one, and then of course I seen Roseanne the comedy, and she did her version of it. So it's just pretty funny.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah, yes, but like you had said, like Dickens, the realities of his poverty and his dad's imprisonment, all those kind of shaped the view of the world for him and made it a good trauma piece for him to pull from to create this storyline. And something that most people don't know about Charles Dickens was he was a oh my gosh, why can I not talk? He was a photographer. He had interest in photography.
Man, he done a lot of stuff. Yeah, it
Well,
kind
yeah,
of
he had
blew
a
my
lot of
mind.
things, but like the photography, I was surprised by because I think of him as a writer, and anything that had to do with writing, like his being a reporter, a passionate person in the acting and the public reader stuff, all these social things that he didn't find that surprising. But the fact that he was used photography in a time where I felt photography wasn't like a prevalent thing, and he was poor, I wouldn't associated those
Yeah,
things.
didn't even think about that part of it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, it didn't. Him being a parliamentary reporter. He's a writer, and I know that wasn't fiction, but I could see that like owning his skills.
Hmm.
If you're yeah, if you're into the arts, I see a lot of people that are into music, they're into performing plays, they're into writing. So that part didn't bother me, or it didn't bother me, it didn't shock me.
Hmm.
But yeah, I never thought about that because it probably was hard and expensive to get a camera
Hmm.
and take portraits, but way back
Yeah,
when.
yeah. He was a passionate actor. Like he would back then they would even like read out stories. There were some of the video games that we have played in the past. There'll be like one of the public readers reading the storylines out to the public as they're listening, almost like when you would hear it over the radio,
Yep,
in the 40s, 50s, 60s kind of
War
thing.
of the Worlds. We need to cover
Yeah,
that.
yeah. But the same idea. There was a stage for just reading books and storylines, so that way people could hear the story and envision it in their mind.
That's why he only wrote 80 pages. He's like, dang, I want to have to say this out loud. I need to get through this.
Something about him as well is his complication, which I feel like this is something with a lot of artists, is his complication with his love life. We see that as a common thread in a lot of the authors that we've covered, like Mary Louise Alcott, like Edgar Allan Poe, some of the struggles that they had with love and death and all these tragedies that kind of makes them prolific writers and stories that we find as classic pieces now. So to their demise, we benefit. But he was married to Catherine Hogarth. Hogarth?
Yeah, I don't think he was too happy.
Yeah, leading to the separation and
Like I
consequences.
know him, I don't think he was that happy.
Yeah. Well, apparently he wasn't that happy because he ended up falling in love with someone else. Ellen, yeah.
Yeah, she was
Some
an
lady named,
actress, I believe. So I kind of wonder, like, was it right around that time, and that's what caused the problems? Because people looked at him, kind of looked down on him for that.
well, this was a different time in the public image. You have to realize this is like Scarlet Letter and, no divorce. You stay with the same person forever and keep all your affairs secret in the closet. So this is a different complication for him in the public eye when he's, putting his stuff out there. He was involved in social reform. He wasn't just entertaining, he was writing highlight of social injustice and advocating for reform. But where he was a parliamentary reporter, he was in the government threshold of things that were happening. So he was also inspired to find out ways to help people overcome the reality of poverty, help people with these social problems that were in Victorian England.
Yeah, and I'm sure that
Nothing to
was
cake.
because of his. I mean, look, he had to work in a factory as a child.
Mhm.
I'm sure they were struggling with his dad in prison, so I'm sure all that affected him. I swear to you, I put my phone in airplane mode. Let me do it again. I have too many texts. There we go. Bam.
You need a chat assistant to answer your text messages.
I
It says
do.
when someone texts you and you're not available, it responds immediately. Thank you for your message. Jamie's unable to respond to this moment, but he will get back to you as early as convenience. For those who don't know the story, there's this character of Bob Cratchit. He's struggling to provide for his first family, meager wages, which we can say came from Dickens' own personal experiences and his empathetic understanding of being in that lower working class at the time. There was no minimum wage per se of how here, like a cost of living or any of that. There was no, I think it was certain people had to pay a certain amount of money just to be able to sleep in a used coffin, like a coffin for a pauper, whatever or just to find a place to sleep. I mean, you had to pay to sleep on the ground. It was some dark times. But this whole experience of this working class part, that's where we get this Tiny Tim, this frail and vulnerable, embodies this fragile life and this devastating impact of this Victorian poverty landscape with children. And I don't think people realize how many children died because of vitamin deficiencies, not being able to go out in the sun because they're constantly working in the warehouses during the day. This was a common thread in that history, was children dying and being, just, I don't know, just dramatic. Anyways, sorry.
And then we have Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yes, and then there's that character of Scrooge that everybody can call someone a Scrooge. Everybody knows a Scrooge.
Yeah, that's like it's like have you ever seen? Your husband will appreciate when I say this. Have you ever seen the movie Kingpin?
Yeah, I've not seen it. I know what it is though.
Okay, well, I'm saying this.
It's a movie.
I'm saying this for Dylan. Man, he got Munson's. What do you mean? When you're down on your luck, and that was Roy Munson when he should have been the bowling champion, and he got his arm chopped off. All right,
But
I slipped that in there for you, Dylan.
the one thing about Scrooge is, I mean, I feel like Dickens portrays Scrooge as this greedy Scrooge.
Yeah,
Yeah, this
miser,
greedy
mean.
miser for sure. Yeah, this person who hoards his money, and I think of Ebenezer Scrooge McDuck, Scrooge
Yes.
McDuck. Yeah, counting all his, DuckTales. So I imagine this person who's very selfish and all these things, but Dickens doesn't hold on to the fact of making this person stay in that category, he gives them a way out. He gives them a redemptive quality to be able to transform into someone potentially that does help. It's almost like a huge story of self-reflection and pivoting your approach to humanity, in a sense.
And ghosts.
And ghosts. And Jaime just learned there's 4 ghosts, not 3.
Yeah, I don't know why, but it's been so long since I read and saw the movies. I'm thinking of, past, present, and future.
Yes, most people think there's 3 ghosts, but no, there's 4 because the ghost that visited him the night. Yeah, so there will be 3 ghosts that visit you. Yeah, I mean, 4 ghosts. Yeah. Something about the social landscape of Victorian England was the 1840s. It was a period of immense social change in Britain, and the Industrial Revolution had created this vast wealth for people who were in the industry, as far as like owning the industry, but it created a huge difference with the majority who were in poverty and social inequality.
Yeah, and I think that like Dickens, he was an observer of that. He's like, I see this divide, and he put this into his writing. So
yeah, so it was almost like it was crying out to the greedy rich. You can reform, you can help, you can reflect and see the people who are struggling and help them. Give them a little bit more. You don't have to give them everything, but give them a little bit more. And then there was this rise of social reform that he was a part of, wanting to push this narrative. And this involved being in various advocating systems and he wanted to reform the working conditions. He wanted to improve the treatment of the poor. His writings typically highlight these social problems. I know A Christmas Carol is about a Christmas story that takes place in a setting of Christmas, but for the most part,
it's
it's
much
literally
deeper.
It's literally about a social changes.
Yeah, because even when he wrote this and he was so passionate about this, I wonder if he's like, if people read this, can I help change somebody?
Yes.
To realize that the inequality and the difference, and you don't have to be a miser. You can help the poor. Listen, we're human. We need to help each other.
Yeah. And I remember as a kid, even watching the cartoon of Disney's cartoon, Tiny Tim, and you see the gravestone. I remember crying. I remember finding it extremely devastating as a child. So as children maybe have read this, you kind of can empathize with what was happening in the storyline. Like, Mr. Scrooge, please change. All right.
Yeah, and didn't really have like religious and secular attitudes, but the overall theme would explore redemption, forgiveness, and the spirit of Christmas, resonating with the shifting landscapes of Victorian England. So, we can't really call it a Christian story, even though it's a Christmas book, but it is in that spirit of love thy neighbor and help your fellow man.
Yeah, it's not really solely on traditional like religious dogma per se, but again, you don't have to have religion to know to do the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to believe in Christ to have empathy and compassion. I'm not telling anyone watching this to, that I'm leading you that way, but I'm just saying.
Well, empathy and compassion exist in all manners of faith and non-faith.
Yes, I know people who are atheists that are the most loving, giving people I've ever met.
Actually, I saw a thing the other day that said if you have to have a god to be a good person, then you're not actually a good person. Like, if you have to have something threatening you with hell and damnation, then you're really a good person, and you're just only doing that because you're being threatened by it.
Yeah, it needs to come from your soul, and I think that's his approach to this book.
Yeah. Yeah, so some of his literary and influences and creative processes, his own literary development honed in through years of writing novels and journalistic pieces undoubtedly influenced his approach to Christmas Carol. He crafted the narrative seamlessly, which blends with, the humor and the social critique, like we've said, but this vivid characterization and this tightly paced plot within 80 pages. I mean, that's you wrote books this size, so it's
that's
not
what I like
easy
to
to
do.
create a narrative like that.
You have to dive in and really explain your character and keep that world tight as you're developing it, because you only have time. It's like watching a movie. You only got so much time to finish that movie and to understand, the beginning, the middle, and the end.
Yeah. So we talked about Bob Cratchit. He's the one that worked with Ebenezer Scrooge, he worked for him, and he struggled with the poverty and the ill health in his child and all these things that he was dealing with, and he was basically working to just make his family barely survive. So Dickens himself, in his personal experiences, working in the blacking factory at a young age, this experience impacted him for this storyline.
Oh, and definitely. I mean, what a horrible situation for a child,
Yes,
because I'm sure
yes.
it was backbreaking work when you're not even you're still a child.
hmm Scrooge's name, something interesting. The name Scrooge wasn't originally meant to be a synonym for
Miserliness, right?
the name Scrooge
Mm-hmm.
wasn't originally meant to be a synonym for miserliness. Thank you.
Yes. It took me a minute too.
Miserliness.
It's like
Yeah, I was
so,
like, what? Yeah,
and I think
miserliness.
he said it was like a dialect word for meaning like to squeeze or scrunch to describe, so he wanted his last name to kind of, represent who he really was. He's pinching every penny. He don't care about anybody else.
Mhm. Tendency to hoard.
Yep.
Yeah. Being a Scrooge. um, Multiple endings were considered. Some accounts suggest that Dickens considered alternately ending for the story that explored the consequences of Scrooge's transformation or potentially him to relapse. But the existing ending, though satisfying, may have not been the only one he initially explored. I feel like, almost like in a sense, since this would be in the public domain, someone could take this and do an alternate ending to the Christmas Carol.
Choose your own adventure.
Yes, like that book you talked about. Yeah, so there could be a
Another
public
podcast.
domain thing here, people. You could literally take a Christmas Carol and make it your own. Ghostly inspirations. So the ghostly inspirations, like the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and yet to come, have come from his fascination with the supernatural and the spiritualism and things that were kind of very prevalent during this time in Victorian England.
Yeah, because that was a time of table tipping and seances, and.
And you're at the end of the time frame of the witchcraft, and that magic is essentially still in the air of like, ooh. He had immediate success with this book, but it didn't come without some criticism. While the Christmas Carol achieved immediate success commercially, it was not universally praised. Some critics found that the sentiment and tone of the supernatural elements were excessive and
Yeah,
overly
I can.
convincing. Yeah, I mean, it's a fiction story, but everybody's got a critic.
Yeah, well, they had the Siskel and Ebert of their time. Like this is unconvincing to me, and we do not delve into the supernatural.
Yeah, the Christmas Carol was a.
We're coming up on this birth date.
Yeah.
The publication was on December 19th, 1843. But it was not just commercial. It resonated deeply with the Victorian public, influenced attitudes towards poverty, charity, and the true spirit of Christmas. So, yes, I'm reading my
Yeah,
bullet points.
yeah. But I mean, I feel like this story, when you hear Charles Dickens, you immediately know this man tells stories of great, profound meaning. When you hear the word Charles Dickens, you're not like, oh yeah, he was just a one-hit wonder. You don't
Yeah,
think
because
of
I
Charles
wonder how
Dickens
many
that way.
books he wrote. I'm actually getting ready to look it up.
Yes, look that up.
How many books did Charles Dickinson publish? That's where I should have went. But I mean, he'd been around forever. He's a reporter, so he had a lot of publications under his belt. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books. Wait, no, this don't make sense. Novels. This says A Family in Time. This was a self-published ebook, and I know he wasn't alive in 2012. A shortcut some. So he had Waltz. This don't even make sense to me because it's not even mentioning A Christmas Carol. You know why?
What did
Because I
you put in
typed in
there?
the wrong one. Charles Dickens.
What did you put in your search?
It popped out Charles Dickinson. I love it. Where are we at here? Now you're going to hate it. Works. Here we go. Bibliography. We'll start this again. Jamie, how many books did Charles Dickens write? Well, let me pop this up. From 1812 to 1970, novels and novellas. Oliver Twist. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I forgot. The Pickwick Papers, Nicholas Nickleby, The Old Curiosity Shop. Christmas Carol, that was like his 6th book. And David Copperfield was another one. A Tale of Two Cities, Great Expectations. And he had a lot of short stories, of course. But yeah, so he wrote some prominent books that we all read in school. And
Or
that
at least
wasn't even...
know of them, yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't even his first big one. Oliver Twist is really the one. I don't remember the Pickwick Papers, but Oliver Twist is the one that popped and we've read. And then next was A Christmas Carol, even though we had several books between them. And of course, the other ones, like I said, David Copperfield and Tale of Two Cities, Great Expectations. So, quite a prolific author.
All right. So next week is Christmas.
It is.
So yeah, I'm excited. Are you excited?
I am excited.
Are you ready?
Yes, I'm excited. Every day is Christmas for me. Like, we had Christmas a few weeks ago. I said, Karisa, or maybe a month ago, I really need to get an iPad mini for going to Poland and using one. He's like, anything Apple, buy it. So I bought it. So Merry Christmas to me.
Thanks, Diane. I bought it for myself. You should have wrapped it up and then been like, oh, Diane, thank you.
Yeah, I can't believe you got me this. But I've seen you using it for the past month. Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, just wrap up the box. Be like, thank you. I told someone to do that the other day. I was like, just wrap it up and put it under the tree, and then your husband will act surprised when you get it and be like, what? Like,
yeah,
okay,
be like,
thanks,
wow,
Anna.
I can't believe you did this. Then it'd be like, wait a minute, who's the fool that snuck in this house and gave you a Christmas present?
Okay, before we sign off, what is one thing that you don't ever want Diane to buy for you because it's like, let me buy this myself. Don't ever buy this for me.
Music equipment. She couldn't pick the right microphone for me or the right keyboard.
I don't buy Dylan movies because he has so many, so I'm like, I don't even know.
I just got Netflix and Amazon Prime, so I never buy movies. I'm like, and if it's not free on there, then I'll buy it.
Well, Merry Christmas to those for the next coming week. Happy holidays to those who are not practicing to celebrate Christmas and all these other festivities we have going on. We have Kwanzaa, we have Hanukkah. There's all kinds of great cultural experiences happening. Festivus, yes. But
for the rest of us.
For the rest of us, yes. But thank you for listening. This is the Always Right podcast. You can find us online at alwaysrightpodcast.com, where you can click our little icons. You can find us on all social media platforms, although we only post on usually Facebook and Instagram. And you can click on our YouTube, our Spotify, Amazon Music, or Apple Podcast and find ways to listen to us in the car, or if you want to watch us on TV or whatever you want to do, just do it. And then if you have any questions, or if you have a story you want to share, you have an author you want us to cover, or you have an author friend who wants to come on, whatever it may be, send us an email at alwaysrightpodcast@gmail.com and we'll get back to you. Unless Jamie opens it. I don't know that it's got opened.
I think I did one yesterday.
Oh no, I do have to go back and check.
Yes, because it was about Michael. Marique was checking in to see.
I did actually go in and see that had been read, and I read it myself. Yes, okay. I got that one. All right.
All right.
Yes, all right.
Now you know now you know life sorrow between us when we're not on the podcast.
Yes. All right. Thank you for listening. As always, I'm author Karisa DeLay.
And I'm author Jaime Vendera, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Until then, always right.